Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. In today's coverage of the ongoing civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia, the fighting continues. So, if we look back the last several days of the conflict, we look back from the withdrawal of the Tigrayan Defense Forces from the vicinity of Shia Robit, north of Shia Robit, and within the vicinity of Kamise, and its withdrawal out of Dese Kombolcha and towards the general operating area and the defensive perimeter near Weldiya. We had received numerous reports, both within the context of Ethiopia, Abiy loyalist state media, Amhara regional media, Fano media, that the Tigrayan Defense Forces would be driven out very soon of the northern Amhara region, specifically Weldiya, Gashena, Mersa, Kobo, and Lalibela, and so forth. And as predicted by this channel, we had maintained that fairly significant defensive lines were being established or had been established by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. And as we sit now, those defensive lines have held. Furthermore, it would appear that a multiple counteroffensive was launched by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, which retook Lalibela and Gashena. And now we are looking at the TDF moving back into the area near Shifra. Now, with that being said, the fighting continues. We have seen and heard reports that the ferocity of the fighting, especially in the areas near Gashena and south of Mersa, have been incredibly intense and incredibly costly for the Abiy loyalists. And we have obtained some information that would indicate that due to the casualties that are being taken, that in fact the Abiy loyalist side quite literally is running out of body bags and coffins. And right now, and in terms of even in the past, we have seen where mass burials are having to take place because of the extensive casualties that have been incurred by the Abiy loyalists. We have seen within the vicinity of Mercer and Gashena the use of what some military analysts or probably not so military analysts would define as human wave attacks being launched by the Ethiopian National Defense Forces against targets south of Weldiya and near Gashena, and those tactics have indeed resulted in the losses of huge amounts of manpower. And again, as we know, during the course of this war, probably in excess of 50% of Ethiopian National Defense Force, the federal forces, tanks, and armored personnel carriers that had been in service have been either destroyed, disabled, or captured by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. So again, we've seen an immense loss of both material and equipment by the Abiy loyalists in the course of this conflict. But specifically, the manpower that has been lost, and we have talked about even before the losses that were inflicted near Gashena and Mersa recently, we were looking at in excess of 100,000 casualties. So again, the intensity of this conflict, which really isn't getting the due coverage that it should probably get, given the intensity of the conflict and the intensity of the war. But again, we are seeing casualties on the level not seen since really World War I and other high-intensity conflicts that have occurred around the globe. But again, the mainstream media is really not doing a great job in terms of covering the intensity of the conflict, and just not really covering the conflict much at all. If and when the only time you really see coverage is possibly when a large city trades hands, or something along those lines occur, where you start to see some sort of minuscule coverage by Reuters or Al Jazeera, or some other channel media outlet that covers world news. But again, right now, as we had reported, the lines near Weldiya have stabilized. The Tigrayan Defense Forces has seized control of Gashena, seized control of Lalibela, and it looks like they're starting a renewed offensive within the direction of Gashena, or I'm sorry, of Shifra. And again, I would say, from my viewpoint, I again, if I were in charge of the Tigrayan Defense Forces in directing military operations, I would probably stay out of the Afar region. And again, I can see blocking formations being set up to defend against a possible westward offensive by the Abiy loyalists, by the Amhara and or Afar regional militias from assaulting Weldiya from the east. But again, that's in all probability what they are looking to do. We are continuing to get information now about a buildup of Eritrean forces in western Tigray. So again, we've received some reports that it would appear that there are negotiations underway between Isaias Afwerki and the despotic regime in Eritrea, in which we're quite possibly looking at, again, negotiations in terms of Western Tigray being assimilated by the Amhara region, and or parts of it actually being annexed by Eritrea at some point. So again, we continue to hear about forced deployments of the Eritrean army in western Tigray, and again, if not for the outside forces of the Eritrean army operating in western Tigray, in all probability, the Tigrayan Defense Forces would have overran western Tigray and retaken it from the Amhara regional militias, and specifically the Eritrean army. But again, we continue to hear about large elements of the Eritrean army in western Tigray. We continue to hear about large elements of the Eritrean army in the northern Amhara region, specifically Gondar, and training camps that are being set up and specifically run by the Eritrean army. We also hear about individual Amharans being conscripted and or recruited and shipped off to Eritrea to train in Eritrean training camps as well. So again, you can see the hand of Isaias Afwerki and the Eritrean army very much in play within the course of this conflict. We've also received media reports from the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, from the General Staff of the ENDF, of the Abiy loyalists, that would indicate they intend to continue to fight until they have not just seized control of or retaken the northern Amhara region, but also their intent appears to be to then reinvade the Tigray region, and quite possibly a long-term objective would be the reoccupation of Mekelle. And I think, again, that gives you an idea of the level of incompetence that we are seeing from the Abiy loyalist side of the conflict. Again, those forces suffered catastrophic defeats in the Tinbian region, in and around Mekelle, south of Mekelle, west of Mekelle, north of Mekelle, east of Mekelle, and eventually had to withdraw. So the idea that they are going to reconquer the northern Amhara region, which right now they're having significant difficulties in making any headway. And again, they are taking incredible losses. Again, the magnitude of losses are on par with World War I types of losses, in which a battlefield dead are not even being shipped back home, but usually buried on the spot in mass graves because of the level of casualties that are being taken. Again, I think after this conflict has ended, whenever that will occur, the sheer size of the losses that have been incurred, especially in terms of some of the tactics that have been utilized by the Abiy loyalist side because of their overabundance of manpower and utilizing those personnel as cannon fodder will be very, very, very well apparent as many generations will continue to feel the effects on this conflict, especially for those individuals that will not be, unfortunately, returning home from said conflict. But again, just the generic battlefield update: lines near Mersa, Wagaltena, Gashena, Lalibela have been stabilized by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. There has been renewed offensive operations by the TDF, and again, we're continuing to get reports on the sheer size of the losses by the Abiy loyalists in their continued attempts to drive towards Weldiya. And again, Weldiya is a very, very defendable terrain. It is going to be very, very difficult for any force to move from south of Mercha near Wachale Hike and press into Weldiya, and then even north of Weldiya towards Kobo Robit. Kobo becomes a little bit more flatter, but west and east of Kobo, very hilly, and very, very significant terrain features again exist in and around Weldiya that have been very well fortified by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, and we're continuing to see just again the losses are just really, really immense on the part of the Abiy loyalists as they continue to utilize some of these mass human wave attacks to take ground. And again, they've just not been very successful. We're seeing a bit less drone coverage, quite possibly because of the tempo and the use of drones that were used farther south, and then quite possibly just getting ahead of that operational umbrella of the drones that they were using. And again, I talked about the Turks were really focused on preventing the fall of Addis Ababa, also known as Finfinay, but really have no desire to continue in the conflict in terms of giving free handouts in the form of military munitions and technology to the Abiy loyalists in perpetuity. But again, we're continuing to watch some the buildup of the OLA and some things that are being done by the OLA in forward-facing operations that could start. But again, we're going to continue to analyze that as we get more information about what is going on. But again, right now, the centerpiece of the fight really is south of Weldiya, just south of Mersa, and we're going to continue to cover that. And we continue to receive information from our sources on the status of the ongoing battle. But again, more to come very, very soon. Have a great Monday, everybody, and we will have more reports very, very soon. Stay tuned. Have a good day.